Thanks for joining us on this edition of National Focus. I am Lourianne Graham Carter. Coming up, Cabinet visits Cabrits Resort Kempinski, bills to improve tax regulations passed, and Director of Tourism shares new initiatives for 2016 cruise season. Stay with us for details of these and other stories after this.
Yell and tell. If someone tries to abuse you, tell until someone believes you and they do something about it.
For more information on child abuse or to report suspected cases on child abuse, contact the Social Welfare Division on 33 Great Marlborough Street or call 266-3020 or 266-3080.
Thank you for staying with us. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit and his cabinet visited the site of the Cabrits Resort Kempinski and got a first-hand view of the progress being made on the 160-room hotel. The Cabrits Resort Kempinski is the first hotel financed under the Citizenship by Investment program and is located at Douglas Bay in the town of Portsmouth. After a thorough tour of the site, the Honorable Prime Minister told the media that he is pleased by the progress he has seen so far.
We're very, very pleased with the quality of construction, the efficiency of construction, and the progress made thus far.
Honorable Skerrit noted that government remains fully committed to this project. He spoke highly of the Citizenship by Investment program.
The government remains fully committed to the project, to its successful completion. We believe that the Citizenship by Investment program is an important medium one can use to generate sustainable economic activity. The IMF just released a report, for example, which shows that Dominica will have the second highest growth in the OECS. And they have also indicated that the resources from the Citizens by Investment program is a major source of non-tax revenue, which is assisting our economies to get to a more sustained growth path.
Honorable Minister for Tourism, Senator Robert Tong, encouraged individuals attending the Dominica State College to pursue studies in tourism and hospitality.
This is really a perfect opportunity to be prepared and to prepare yourselves for being employed in the hotel industry, which is one of the critical industries in Dominica at this point in time. As Range has promised, and through Kempinski, 25 scholarships will be given, and persons have to be serious and be willing to travel and be away from Dominica for at least 1 year. And we're hoping that once this project is completed, over 350 individuals will be employed, 80% of them being in Dominicans. So again, I just said to everyone, please be ready, get yourselves ready. You never know who's watching you in terms of the service that you provide to individuals.
Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the Portsmouth constituency, Ian Douglas, said that government is once again fulfilling another promise, which is to create employment.
That is one of the promises that we made since we came into office, and we are again fulfilling another promise to create employment and to generate economic activity for all of Dominica. And like the Prime Minister said, this is the benefit, the direct benefit of the Citizenship by Investment program. And again, all of the international observers are recognizing and are commenting that this is in fact the way to go, and a very viable undertaking, and we are using the revenues generated from that program to create sustainable development that will exist for years to come.
Director of Dubai-based Range Development Mohammed Asari stated that Dominica's economy is benefiting directly and indirectly from this project.
There might be 125 people working within the boundaries of the site, but outside the boundaries there's probably more people than the 125 working, whether that's supplying concrete, whether that's haulage, whether that's bringing materials in, whether that's in customs. So when you look at a project of this nature, you don't just look at the direct, but you also look at the indirect economic multiplier, not just in terms of labor, government receipts, both direct citizenship taxes, other government taxes, and it feeds throughout the whole of the economy. And that benefit is not just felt in the town of Portsmouth, but should be felt throughout the whole of the state of Dominica.
Last month, contracts were signed for 3 hotel projects under the Citizenship by Investment program. The hotels are the Silver Beach Resort and Spa in Portsmouth, Jungle Bay Resort in Monokuma, Soufriere, and the Bois Cotlet Estate, also in Soufriere. And in other news, the Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act of 2016 has been passed by Parliament. On Monday, the bill, which was left at committee stage on Friday for consideration, was finalized at the 2:30 sitting of Parliament. The Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act of 2016, Chapter 6702 of the 1990 Revised Laws of Dominica, was enacted to make provisions authorizing the enforcement of obligations under the Commonwealth of Dominica. This was under the agreement for the exchange of information with respect to taxes. The Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, explained.
The specific amendments made to the Parent Act were the following: the repeal and replacement of Section 2, which includes the definition of the key terms; the amendment of Section 4 by deleting the words, I quote, of inland revenue, end of quote; insertion of new sections 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4D after Section 4 to deal with the issues of production of information, notification, enforcement, and protection of persons disclosing confidential information; amendment of Section 5 of the Act.
The Honorable Prime Minister revealed that the Office of the Attorney General had done a further review of the amendment and recognized that an additional amendment is necessary for the implementation of the sections which were included by the 2015 amendment. The new section, Section 1, states:
Subsection 1, where under a request the Comptroller considers it necessary to obtain specific information or information of a specified description from any person, the Comptroller shall: A, in the case of information required for proceedings in the territory of the requesting party or related investigations, apply to a judge of the High Court for an order to produce such information; or B, in the case other than referred to in paragraph A, issue a notice in writing requiring the production of such information as may be specified in the notice, and such notice may require the information to be: 1, provided within a specified time; 2, provided in such form as the Comptroller may require; and 3, verified or authenticated in such manner as the Comptroller may require.
Details on the Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act of 2016 can be found on the government's website on the bills for review. And a bill to improve the record-keeping process of the International Exempt Trust has been amended and was on Friday passed as the International Exempt Trust Act of 2016. The Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, on Friday presented the Parent Act of 1997 for amendment. The International Exempt Trust Act provides legal framework for matters relating to the operation of international trust in Dominica. The amendment was in compliance with the recommendations of the Global Forum.
The Parent Act is amended by inserting the following new section: Section 41A, immediately after Section 41. This new section: the trustee of International Exempt Trust shall keep in the English language such records or books of account as are necessary to reflect the true and full nature of the transactions of the trust. The records or books of account required by this section shall be kept as a registered office of the trust in Dominica. and the trustee of International Exempt Trust shall preserve all books of account for a period of 7 years after the end of the basis period to which books of account for records relate.
A person who fails to keep a proper record of transaction or to preserve any books of account or records in accordance with this section is guilty of an offense and liable to summary conviction to a fine of $5,000 and or 6 months imprisonment. And the policy to improve tax administration in Dominica has been implemented with the approval of the Value-Added Tax Amendment of 2016. The Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, presented the Value-Added Tax Act No. 7 of 2005 in Parliament on Friday. According to the nation's leader, the amendment is intended to address 2 matters. The first seeks to facilitate taxpayers in meeting tax obligations. The second is in support of the government's housing program, in particular the implementation of the Housing Resettlement Program. Dr. Skerrit explained that this policy intends to improve the efficiency with which tax are administered, and the measures are expected to make it easier for taxpayers to meet their tax obligations.
Among the measures that have been undertaken are the improvements in the auditing function and the establishment of a large-medium taxpayer unit, where the focus is on services to taxpayer rather than on the tax type. When I presented the 2016 budget address, a new measure was announced for changes to be made to the value-added tax threshold. The announcement was made for an increase in the threshold from $120,000 per annum and $60,000 per annum to a single threshold of $250,000 per annum.
He assured that government's intention is always to facilitate the process so taxpayers are encouraged to pay their taxes.
This measure is recognition that micro and small businesses may not have all of the resources they require to meet their tax commitments. The value of the turnover of a business is usually a good indicator of its size. And in that regard, when the VAT was introduced 10 years ago, the threshold was set at $60,000 per annum to reflect the economic realities of the time.
10 years later, with the passage of time and economic growth, government sees the need for an increased threshold periodically.
The specific amendments to the VAT Act are as follows. The Act is deemed to have come into force on the 1st September 2016. Section 3 of the Amendment Act amends Section 11 of the VAT Act by substituting the new thresholds from those currently in the Act. The figure of $120,000 in the Act is replaced by the $250,000. In subsection 10, similar changes are made with the replacement of the figure of $30,000 and substituting the figure $62,500 and replacement of the figure of $120,000 with $250,000.
The other amendment to the Value-Added Tax Act being presented is a change to Schedule 3 to the Act, which reads as follows: building materials, prefabricated buildings, furniture, fixtures, and equipment imported to be used exclusively for the construction, repair, or renovation of a government-approved social housing project. If the minister approved the exemption for the imports and the financial secretary notified the Comptroller of Customs of the imports to be exempt. You are watching National Focus. More when we return.
Let's have some fun, eh?
I'm not ready for your kind of fun yet.
But everybody else is doing it.
But I'm not everybody else. I'm me, and I want to do well in school.
Well, you definitely get an A for attitude.
I plan to get an A in life, and then think of your kind of fun.
So what am I to do in the meantime?
You'll survive.
Say no when you're not ready. Use condoms when you are.
Welcome back. The Tourism Regulation and Standards Amendment Act of 2016 was on Monday approved by Parliament. The Tourism Regulation and Standards Act number 19 of 2005 provides for the creation of standards for the tourism industry and the regulation and certification of tourism service providers in Dominica. A tourism service provider, as defined by the Honorable Minister for Tourism, Senator Robert Tong, is a person who provides a tourism service. Tourism service means any service offered to tourists, such as a service connected with accommodations, a bus tour, taxi, tour guiding, vending, water sports, and food and beverage, wholly or mainly to tourists. Honorable Senator Tong told members at Parliament on Monday that much consultation was held with all stakeholders before finalizing the bill.
We propose to amend sections 6 to 9 of the Parent Act, which is to improve the provision respecting the consultation process between the Director of Tourism and the relevant Standards Committee, and to ensure that the objective standards are always taken into account by the Director and the relevant Standard Committee. To simplify the enforcement of the standards developed under the Act, as well as the conditions that are attached to the licenses of tourism service providers. This was necessary as the present procedure was not workable.
Senator Tong described tourism as one of Dominica's growth engines, and therefore the growth and sustainability of that industry is pivotal to the overall development of Dominica.
In order to achieve this, several measures have already been implemented while others are being planned. In general, these initiatives aimed at increasing visitor arrivals, by extension realizing higher visitor expenditure, and ensure visitor satisfaction in the destination.
Recent measures to improve the tourism sector included the $15 million loan facility provided for hoteliers at the Aid Bank, and increasing the tourism marketing budget from $2.5 to $8.5 million, the appointment of a destination marketing manager, and support to community tourism programs. The Honorable Tourism Minister also revealed that Cabinet has approved an action plan to address the issue of vagrancy.
The plan will include the hiring of a consultant to undertake a strategy with the aim of developing a comprehensive and sustainable approach to the daily care. But right now we will proceed with what we call a day program to ensure that we can remove or move vagrants off the street. But very importantly, this cannot be done by ourselves. Everybody has a social responsibility, especially the families of these individuals, to help us to take care of them.
To date, over 50 tour guides have been trained to improve on the service provided to tourists, and more will soon be trained.
All vehicles leaving the port with at least 4 passengers will have a tour guide on board, therefore increasing the experience. Mechanical checks are now required for all tour vehicles to ensure the safety, comfort and security of our visitors. We cannot stop accidents, but we can surely reduce the chances of them happening.
The Tourism Regulation and Standards Amendment Bill is available on the government's website at dominica.gov.dm under Bills for Review. In other news, Director of Tourism Colin Piper has revealed several new initiatives which the Ministry of Tourism will be undertaking for the 2016 cruise season. He spoke to GIS News on Wednesday during the launch of the 2016 cruise season.
We've tried to do a couple of things. We're still working to finalize the holding areas for the taxis so that at the actual ports it's a little more, it appears a little more organized and less chaotic. That's one of the things we think will assist with the port side welcome. We've also done some things with the school children to help and do more with a welcome as opposed to music and entertainment. So these are some of the things that we're trying to do. We are also looking at how we can, in working with the taxi drivers and putting them under contract, an agreement, so to speak, an agreement as it relates to when they visit certain sites. We want to impact on the guest experience at those sites and hope that the taxi drivers adhere to the agreement. So these are some of the things that are ongoing.
The Director of Tourism also referenced the bill introduced and passed in the House of Parliament by the Honorable Minister for Tourism and Urban Renewal, Senator Robert Tong, for an act to amend the Tourism Regulations and Standard Act of 2005.
As you would have heard, the minister was in Parliament reading for the amendments of the Tourism Standards and Regulations Act to be amended, and so with those things we hope to have what we say additional teeth to be able to enforce some of the practical things that we think should be happening as a matter of just regular operations on the bayfront, which will have an impact on the visitors.
He notes that this new legislation will enact stricter regulations, referencing specifically to the issue of unauthorized tours.
What we're trying to prevent are people who leave the premises here and go beyond the boundaries and then, get what we call an unauthorized tour. Because then there's no mechanism in place for the quality of the tour, the pricing of the tour, and if someone is disenfranchised or disgruntled with the service they receive, it comes back to the destination as a whole. So we're trying to inform people that this is the place where you need to either get your organized tour or get your private tour dispatched from the port through CTI.
This, he says, will ensure safety of the visitors.
It comes back to the visitor experience. Safety security is a critical part as well. So what happens on the port, we have jurisdiction over. The various governmental agencies have just their jurisdiction over, and we have more of a say as to what happens. But when you go outside and go, we can't vouch for the type of service that you will get. Although we have done training, and we are imploring everybody who is providing service to the tourism industry that they need to mind their P's and Q's, be on their best behavior. And we would expect that they would treat the customers fairly. It's just that we can't guarantee it.
The Director of Tourism also highlighted the ministry's effort to preserve tourist attraction sites on island.
We would have, I think, 11 or so ecotourism sites under the user fee system. We continue to try to diversify and get additional sites that cruise passengers can visit and experience in an effort to spread the footprint on some of the more popular sites. We are also doing the priority site, the priority access site, where we try to manage the carrying capacity. We're working in tandem with the Division of Forestry in that regard, and as you know, they would have done some work in particular excuse me, to Trafalgar Falls and Emerald Pool to make sure that the carbon footprint, if I can say that, is being managed accordingly. So we continue to do what it is that we can with all those elements in mind.
And that's news. Your tip of the day is next.
There is a silent, invisible killer in our midst. A killer which largely goes unnoticed as it plies its deadly trade. Its name is second-hand tobacco smoke, which has a far greater impact on persons inhaling this poison than on smokers themselves. Second-hand tobacco smoke is especially detrimental in public places and negatively impacts our national health as well as public health expenditure. Stop this invisible killer now. Say no to second-hand tobacco smoke in public places. A public health message brought to you by the Ministry of Health and the Pan American Health Organization.
Today's tip of the day is actually a quote about making the best of your time. It's only when we truly know and understand that we have a limited time on earth, that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we will begin to live each day to the fullest, and if it was the only one we had. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica, and follow our Twitter at GIS Dominica. You can also catch up on our past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. Live streaming is also available on our YouTube channel 24 hours a day. From all of us here on the GIS News production team, I'm Lourianne Graham Carter. Thanks for watching and join us again next time on National Focus.